Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. So I'm just going to start the other thing so I can see the chat on the PC. So tonight I'm going to be doing a tarot reading for the Flame server and community for the next week. And then I've got some guests coming on and we're going to be talking about any personal experiences we've had recently in terms of Ascension or Mandela effect, any new insights, and just seeing where the conversation goes from there. So who's in chat? Hello, Rainbow Phoenix. You call it the Messiah effect or Messiah effect? I think I'm saying that right. Yes, that's a really good name, actually. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Liara. That's okay. It's late here. I understand. And hey, Lenny. Okay, so without any further ado, let's do the tarot reading. So first thing I'll do is cleanse the cards, White Sage. So I'll be using my 3 decks. Actually, no, I'll be using 2. I'll be using my Messenger Oracle and my Dreams of Gaia. Okay, so let's draw a Messenger Oracle card. For those of you who are new to this, I do have another channel called Amber's Place. I think there's a link in the description, or if it's not, it's on my homepage in channel section, featured channels. That's really the channel where I do tarot, and so I do horoscope tarot on there. We're just waiting for a card to show itself. There we go. Let me go back to Hangout so I can see the screen a sec. Okay, so the Oracle card that's come out is Let the Emotions Flow. Now I'll draw the Dreams of Gaia. I can't really talk when I'm doing this because I need to keep concentrating on the connection to flame. Okay, so we have our 3 cards. We have the Sage, the 6 of Fire, and the 10 of Water. So let the emotions flow. This is all about giving yourself permission to feel the emotions you're experiencing without judging them or blaming you or anybody else for your feeling them. This is about not denying them or repressing them because that can lead to disease. It's about releasing them, letting them flow through you and then pass out of you. The whole idea is to learn from your emotions. It's not about expressing them in an explosive fashion. It's about self-reflecting when you're feeling the emotions about why you're feeling them, where do they stem from, because once you understand that, you're more in control of yourself despite you feeling those emotions. And emotions can be used as an energy source, as a tool to help you achieve things, but they can also help you to learn more about yourself. So we have the Sage card. Key phrases for the Sage: be the storyteller, communicate your thoughts and feelings, know your audience, devote time to research and investigation, learn the traditions and customs of other people or of others, know your ancestors and heritage, sage advice both given and received. There is no good time to give unsolicited advice. Question your traditional reactions and responses. Do not speak so much that you forget to listen. Be wary of the smooth talker. Do not embellish the truth. So, the meaning. The sage in his glory is an enthralling character. He is the sagacious older man. One who is entertaining, expressive, knowledgeable, informative, and just a little mystical and wizard-like. He is a perceptive man, a storyteller at heart, who can read and move his audience with skill and ease. He's also just a little bit of a magician and a master communicator. And when the Sage card appears in your reading, it represents the sharing of knowledge and communication. Okay, so this is about the future. So the future meaning of this card. The future meaning is all about how knowledge in its various forms will aid us in our decision-making processes. It's about understanding that what we think we know now may not necessarily be held as truth tomorrow or in the future. It's about keeping an open mind, allowing your knowledge base to evolve and accrue over time. It's about understanding the importance of the knowledge of our past, the knowledge of our family line, and the history of our people. In essence, the Sage card is about celebrating the role of the Sage, offering our knowledge to others, learning knowledge of others. Because only with knowledge can we accrue true wisdom. So it seems that this next week is going to be a week of learning, of new experiences, of learning new insights, new thoughts for the majority of the flame community. It's going to be a week where we are each going to be sharing our knowledge with others. So then we have the Six of Fire. The key words: resolution is needed. Communication and diplomacy is required. Be willing to make concessions. Let go of biases and be open-minded. There are two sides to every disagreement. Know the facts. Understand your rights and don't be stubborn. So the Six of Fire represents a time of healing through mediation, negotiation, or arbitration. It represents a time when communication and diplomacy is required in order to end a conflict or dispute. Its advice is to bear in mind that there are two sides to every disagreement, and often both parties can be right as well as both parties can be wrong. It could be a time when mediation or arbitration is required. So if two people are having a dispute, it may mean that you need to seek somebody else to assist you in the resolution of that dispute. And that resolution is likely to involve a compromise from both parties. It's about being respectful to everybody as well as yourself. That you don't have to prove that you're right in order to end a conflict. It also advises us to keep our emotions under control and have our facts straight, which harks back to the Oracle card. Let the emotions flow, then stay in control of them. Allow your emotions to be a learning tool. It also advises that everyone should always remain both courteous and considerate at all times. Our behaviors and our attitudes will have a bearing on the outcome of any kind of disagreement or dispute. And then the last card is the Ten of Water. The key phrase is truly living in the present, a feeling of the divine connection, a time of serenity and ease, power born of knowledge and understanding, a positive emotional state, the power to consciously project your energy. Say no to disruptive influences, giving life and power to shadows. So the Ten of Water symbolizes both a beginning and an ending. It is that moment when we let go of emotions that bind us to the past and find ourselves truly living in the present for the first time. It is the feeling of divine connection with all and everything, feeling and knowing that love dwells at the very core of our being and always has. It symbolizes a period of time when we can move through life with a serene sense of ease and fluidity, even when surrounded by turmoil or conflict, when the weight of past emotions is released and everything flows in the manner it is meant to. It's a time when our emotional state now influences our lives in a positive way rather than a negative way. It's about knowing ourselves to the extent that we understand why we feel as we do, and then understand that we have a choice to react in a different way. In other words, it's to have control over the energy that we consist of. Instead of creating a reality that is a reflection of unconscious emotional energy, the Ten of Water lets you know you can now consciously project your feelings and create a future of your own choosing. Overall, it says by consciously embracing a positive mindset and focusing on living a joyful life in this moment, on this day, and each day that follows, you can influence everything around you in the same positive manner. Okay, so I would say that overall for the flame in the next week, there's going to be a process of learning, learning new information, probably from new people and new members. That inevitably, when you get an influx of new members, there could be disagreements and disputes that arise. If there is, then the Six of Fire is advising all parties to remain courteous and respectful at all times, that arbitration and mediation by other community members may be required to settle it or provide mutual understanding to a greater degree. But after that, it's going to be for some members of the community and the community as a whole, to some extent, is going to be that there's going to be a sense of a positive mindset of the community as a whole, and a greater understanding of ourselves as people, as individuals, and how we can create our own reality with a positive mindset. Okay, and I'm just going to draw one more card from the top of the deck, which is the Ten of Earth. Key phrases: a time of reward. Everything is coming together. Move through life with surety. Understand your place and purpose. Do not be daunted by change. Strength gained from experience. Why do you feel a lack? Dissatisfaction and discomfort. So this card symbolizes all aspects of life coming together as a whole and in harmony. It advises that at this time, it is wise to remove all of our masks, showing our true and authentic self to the world. Authenticity is a quality admired by many. It reminds us that life is full of change, but change makes us stronger. It reminds us that to move through life in harmony, we need to find our center and move forward in a fearless manner. Overall, it signifies a time of reward. It asks, have you embraced the highest of ideals, to lead a fulfilling life spent doing something you love, to raise your children to become happy, confident adults, and to know and understand your place and purpose? Okay. So I think that signifies that in order for this week to go through harmoniously, we need to be authentic, our authentic selves at all times if we can. Okay, so that's the tarot reading for the flame completed. Let's put them away. Okay, so the other guests who've been given invites, feel free to pop in at any time. Okay, so I'm going to talk a bit while I'm waiting for people to come in about some of the experiences I've had recently in terms of the Mandela effect and the development of my authentic self. And so one of the two of the first changes I can recall, and I'm bound to forget some things and then remember them as I'm talking, was last Sunday. And I felt that there was a reality change or a shift during the day. And in fact, it was a family get together. So a lot of the family were together. And it's been incredibly hot here. It's been really very, very hot. And this particular day was scorching. And the sun was out all day. And a family member had been inside the house and came out and said something along the lines of, "Oh, I'm glad the sun is out again." And everyone just looked and laughed and said, "Well, the sun's been out all day." And they were adamant, no, the sun had gone in earlier on. And I made a joke about it being the Mandela effect and then being from another reality. But I think that's actually what happened, that there was a shift during that day. And the reason I think that is because when I came home, I have a large Tupperware box. I think you call them Tupperware in America. And so that's, I just use to store things in, and I keep it when it's not in use on top of my fridge freezer. And when I came home and I unlocked my front door and opened my front door, it was in my hallway, on the other side of the hallway to my kitchen. And you know, I don't know if you know, when you see something that's so shocking, you just stop and you just, well, for me, I just stopped and stared at it, thinking, hey, how did that get there? Because it couldn't have been there when I left, because if it had been, I'd have had to step over it all the time in order to move into my bathroom or towards the front door. So I'm trying to work it out in my head, how this thing could have fallen off, because there was nobody here and everything was shut up. And even if it had fallen off onto the floor, how it had managed to get from where it would have landed to the 6 feet or so away on the other side of the hallway. And there were obstacles in the way. It couldn't have rolled anyway, because it's not round, it's rectangular. But even if it does, somehow there were things in the way to stop it getting there. I don't have dogs or anything, so that was the first thing. Then I went out to water the plants in the garden, and I've got a seat outside, and I've got a tree stump where I can rest my feet, my legs. And so I'm sat on my bench, put my feet on my tree stump, and I think, wow, this is a bit strange. It's on a slant. Why is it on a slant? So I'm looking down, and I notice it's been moved about 6 inches to the left. And again, this is positioned, it's not positioned in anywhere that somebody would have kicked it when they're walking past it, because there's nowhere to go. It's kind of like a dead end there. I certainly hadn't moved it, and it's too big for my cats or to have moved it. So, and it's not going to be a dog. I don't have dogs. There's no big dogs around here. Although, talking about dogs, that's another weird event that happened. I had a dog appear and then disappear to me. This was a couple of weeks ago. Again, I was out in the garden, and I was actually speaking to a friend of mine on Discord at the time, and this, like, I don't know, waist high kind of dog, it's kind of like a staffy type, just ran from my back garden into my front garden and ran right up to me. It's like a puppy. It wasn't a puppy, it was a fully grown dog, it looked like, but it was really happy and bouncy and ran right up to me and jumped up on me, gave me lots of kisses. And I'm like stroking it, thinking, who are you? Where'd you come from? And it had no collar on. There was nobody in the street. There was nobody calling. There was actually one man in the street further up, but he wasn't paying any attention. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do with this dog? So I was standing in front of my raised planter, and it jumped down from me, or its front legs came down from me, and then it ran around me, around my planter, into the neighbour's garden, which had long grass, stopped, turned to look at me, and then literally laid down in the grass so I could just see its head. As I was speaking to my friend, I glanced away, glanced back, and it disappeared. And I looked for it. I looked along the street. I looked in the gardens. it was nowhere to be found, and there was nobody calling, nobody around him. It just disappeared so suddenly. It was really strange. And the other thing that was strange is my cats aren't used to dogs. They would react if there was a dog around. And when I was looking for it, I went round to my back garden, and one of my cats was there, and completely like fast asleep, relaxed in the sun, and raised her head to look at me as I came round. She would have been gone if that dog had come out from my back garden, or she had seen it. So then I thought, I came round to my front door, and I looked in, and there's my other cat lying in the open doorway, again sunning herself and lying as asleep, dozing, and looks up at me again. If she'd seen this dog, she would have been gone. She wouldn't have been still on the floor, put it that way. So it's just very odd. This dog just appeared and then disappeared on me. And what else has happened? I'm trying to think now. There's been a few other things this week that have confirmed to me I'm in a different version of my reality. Certain objects that I know had been broken a couple of days before, then suddenly they're just broken. Like a light bulb, for example. And I know it's hot, so I know it just broken. But as soon as I saw it out, I thought, I remember it going a few days before. And again, I was speaking to a friend on Discord who remembered me saying about it. There's been I should have written these down. I'm racking my brains now, but there's been a few things that have happened. There's been several things anyway through the week that have happened that have shown to me. Oh, the other thing, my big thing, my potato plants. I have like a couple of half water barrels now. I've been a couple of years now. I've had potatoes in there growing, and the potatoes that are in there now are from last year because the plants died. I didn't dig them out. I was just going to deal with it this year, and they started growing again. So I thought, oh great, potatoes again. The one thing I've always wanted to grow and I've never had any success with is tomatoes. And I think it was last summer I bought a couple of tomato plants, but they'd got decimated by slugs before they got any bigger than about that, and didn't flower or anything like that because they were just dead by then. And it's been on my mind all year. I so would like to grow tomatoes, and so I'm noticing it now. My dad said to me today to stop saying all the time, so now I'm noticing it. So I walked out into the garden and I am watering the plants, and I glanced over at the potato planters, and I noticed one of the potato plants has got these green balls hanging from it, and I'm thinking, what's that? So I goes over to look at them, and potatoes don't grow fruit like that. So I get one off and I cut it open, and it's an white tomato, and I'm so confused. I'm just stood there looking at this plant. I'm thinking, where did the tomatoes come from? I never planted tomatoes in there. I haven't planted any from seed. It's going to annoy me now to keep saying it, but suddenly these potato plants have turned into tomato plants. And the only thing I think of is in this reality, obviously, in that planter, at some point in time, I did plant tomato plants, because now they're potato plants. There's no potato plants in there. They're now tomato plants. So that's brilliant. I have tomatoes growing, which I'm really pleased about. A couple of other odd things that have occurred outside was I have another section of trunk from this same tree that my footrest portion of trunk is from, and it's been outside for several months at least. And I noticed recently it started to grow twigs out of it, which I know isn't unusual, but then when I pick it up, it's got roots coming out of the bottom of it, and that is very unusual. So I've been informed. This isn't part of the root of the tree, it's a section of trunk. Unfortunately now I've moved it, and the twigs, the leaves have died off, maybe because of the heat. So I've now placed it in a little layer of compost, and I'm watering it until I can get permission for it to be taken back to where the tree was found and placed there to grow into a replacement tree, hopefully. So I'm sure other things are going to come to me about reality changes as we're going through the show. The other things I've experienced is I've been starting to see auras for the last couple of months, maybe. And it started off as just seeing like almost like a shimmer around you, a bit like a heat haze. And then it developed into starting to see colours, just glimpses of colours at times. I don't see auras all the time, it's only sometimes, but I'm getting more control over it. So I'm getting more of the ability to be able to do so at will now. And this is becoming more frequent and a bit more stronger. And I went to Reiki session 2 to 3 days ago, and it was a woman I'd been to before early last year. And it was after that session that my more spiritual gifts started to raise their heads in my life, and I started to experience more what people generally would term like psychic phenomena. So I went to Reiki again, and it was wonderful, wonderful session. As soon as she put her hands on my head, I felt the energy coming down all through my body and around my body, like I was plugged into an electrical socket. And during the session, I went into a semi kind of meditation, and I was lying in a field on my back, and 3 animals appeared to me. 2 of them were chimera, and one was a little monkey. The first one it was quite very small and had a face shaped like a snake, and it came out of the grass and then said to me, "I am your mischievous self." And I was like, okay then. And then it just came up and laid on me, and I was stroking it. Then I got the thought that it was scared, and I asked why, and it said because of what's about to come. And then this larger animal came out of the grass with a head a bit like a bull or an ox, that kind of shape. And it had horns coming out here, straight horns. And it came up to me and said, "I am your stubborn self." So I said, okay. And it laid down beside me, and I was stroking that one. And then on the other side of me, from the grass, there was some rustling, and then this really cute little monkey come out of the grass, and it's eating and eating and eating. It's picking things off the grass and off the ground, and it's shoving them in its mouth, and then it sat there and it's looking at me. And these things talked like telepathically in my head, and it said to me, "I am your greedy self." I was like, okay. And then I was quite enjoying watching this monkey's antics, and then I was back in the Reiki room. So I'm not sure what the interpretation of that is, whether there are 3 aspects I need to work on, I assume. So after the Reiki session, at which point the Reiki lady said to me that she felt my crown chakra was very active, and I explained that I had been specifically working on my crown chakra as an element within a new meditative technique I've been practicing in order not to get so tired when I'm doing tarot, which I've been doing for the previous week, which probably explained why my crown chakra was so active, she said. So later that evening I came home, and I'd had an experience before where I saw my face in the mirror, and I saw my face changing into lots of different people, always the same eyes, and the eyes are at the same spot, and it's the same eyes, but everything else changes. Both male faces, female faces, various different ethnicities and races, various different hairstyles, and sometimes the scarf around my head, etc. And that started to happen again. And then I started to see my aura, and this time I saw it as like a duck egg blue. So I'm trying not to focus on my aura, because if you start to focus and think, then these things tend to stop. And I was trying to work out what exactly I'm doing in order to see it. And then I saw more. I saw a bowl-shaped line of energy sat on top of my head. And then I saw this light in front of my throat. And in my forehead, I saw a bulge, like as if somebody had hit me in the head with a cricket bat. And You get like the egg-shaped bolt where somebody has hit you. And I thought that was very interesting. And later that, I think it was the same evening, or it could have been the following day when I went to bed. Before I went to bed, as I was getting ready to bed, I started to see what I'm seeing morph and change around me. And I lay down in bed, and of course my ears are ringing. And as I'm looking up at my ceiling, I'm seeing like energy between me and the ceiling, and it's moving. I'm seeing like lines in it, so it's moving this way above me. And then I look down towards my feet and I see another energy field that's moving in the opposite direction. And then around my feet is this amazing duck egg blue color just surrounding my feet and actually extending up from my feet. And I'm looking at observing that without any judgment or focusing too much, again, because I don't want it to stop. And then I see a green tinted light over my heart. So I think I saw my heart chakra then. So it's all very interesting. What I've been experiencing. There's loads more as well. It's just too much to recount. There's so many instances of seeing things, experiencing things. My spiritual rating is the channel's open again, so I'm able to do that as proficiently as I did as when I was a child, which I did a lot of that as a child, and it's even stronger and more powerful now. I'm still getting information, like just knowledge appearing in my head without having to work it out. It's just there. What I know a lot of people call it downloads. And so yes, it's overall it's been very interesting and a fascinating process. And I'm sorry I've not been on for a while. It's just that I've been working, I've been so much else going on. I've been practicing meditation and the different techniques. I've been reading books about it, learning different ways to meditate and what to incorporate into them, as well as developing my tarot. And I'm hoping soon to learn more about quantum healing and then Reiki. So I'm getting very interested in this kind of area and what people can do with it. And of course, I've just been it's summer, so doing what I can to grow some organic veg. So there's been a lot going on, both in my more 3D life as well as in my 4D or 5D life as well. A lot of new experiences. Okay, so let's check chat and see what's going on and say hello. Okay, people have been highlighting me. What's going on, guys? Okay, so there's a problem, which is probably why people haven't come on. I've been waiting for you guys to come on. Okay, so what's the problem? Have you messaged me in Discord? Right, let me have a look. Easiest way is to check on my phone. Oh, the link isn't right. I don't know why the link wasn't right. Hold on then. I just need to open Discord on the computer. And then get a link. Okay, links about to arrive. . Sorry, everybody. I don't know why the link didn't work, but these things do happen. Hopefully that should work. Let me know if you have any problems with it.
You sent Bob and I to a room off on our own. We're like, hey, but where's she? What?
I'm like, well, maybe they're getting a cup of tea. I'll just keep talking. They arrive.
Yeah, you don't love us. We already know. We've been trying to get your attention for, I don't know, 15 minutes or so.
Oh, we're here now. So everybody, this is Michelle from Michelle's Opinion. If you're not a subscriber, please check out her channel. She does amazing interviews with people, interviewing and learning about their experiences. And she's appeared on many other channels as well. She's got a fast growing YouTube channel. And she's been on this path. How many years now, Michelle?
How many years have I been going through this refinement? 17.
Wow. Wow.
17 years. It took me 17 years to finally start talking about it. Yep.
Wow. Was it 17 years ago that you had your, you call it a Holy Spirit baptism, don't you?
That was in 2012, but in 2001 is when I started having the astral projecting, vivid dreams, prophetic dreams, and the doc said I'm having night terrors and gave me a pill that didn't make it like completely stop. It just made me not remember so much. And then 2012, it was like wham, right through the medication and everything. It was on full force. It was like I had that 11-year break, and I had to make up for lost time.
Wow.
I don't know if Bob's gonna come in. I think he's a little hurt. No, he'll be here. But did you send it to Overcatton too?
Yes.
Okay, because he may have been like, "What is going on?"
Okay.
And we were like, "Is she just ignoring the chat? We're message you, and then then Bob's like, "I'll tell you, it's the what did he call it? The female diva or dictator or whatever." And I was like, "Stop." It's so funny, but yeah, I was like, well, I got other things I need to get done, so we'll see what happens.
We were, for the viewers, we were actually joking about in Discord before, because I was saying how in the Essene sect of Judaism originally, or in many of the sects, the priests, the ones who became the priests of those sects, used they had a ritual where they castrated themselves, and so I was joking around and telling some of the men in Discord that if you want to become enlightened and get all these like powers, then you need to castrate yourself in order to get them.
Yeah, it scared my husband a little bit.
Yeah, scared Michelle's husband.
Yeah. He's like, she can't come visit for a month now. Forget it. No. Started guarding himself. It was terrible. But yeah, it was interesting. Well, he said it in the chat while we were chatting it up, trying to get your attention, and we didn't have any idea you weren't reading your chat.
I know it distracts me. I check every now and again, but I don't look at it all the time. I just in chat while I'm talking.
I was like, she can't possibly think we all just blew her off. We didn't. We've been trying. There's Bob.
Welcome. You're on mute, by the way.
Yeah, I had to mute off the YouTube channel.
All right. Okay. Sorry for not seeing.
I'm here to protect the right of the divine masculine.
Okay then.
Put Bob and I in a room together, and we were like, what? Bob's like, well, where's she? I was like, oh my gosh, what has she done to us?
Well, they do say that abstinence, you know, a lot of faiths and religions teach that you should abstain from intimate relations for a certain period of time if you're on this path. So if you're not going to use it, you can worry about losing it. As far as I can see. It's not like we need men anymore. After all, what we've got sperm banks and cloning by all accounts.
I'm changing the subject by saying that was a wonderful reading.
Thank you.
I enjoyed that reading. What was your impression of it, Mel, in relation to the flame as a fellowship, as you see it?
I think the flame, I did, the last tarot reading I did for the flame was all about, the death card in it is all about it's ending and it's going to be reborn. So it's going through a cycle of change. This was like about 2 weeks ago. So I think that what has happened is that is now coming to the fore, that the flame is going to go through a cycle of change now. It's coming out of the death period into a rebirth period. So I suspect we're going to get new members, and whenever you get new members, then, you know, we know what it's like to happen in the past, that there can be emotions can run high. You know, people can say things inadvertently, often to upset others, and then it's more of a learning experience for everybody involved, because you don't learn anything unless your emotions are triggered, because only then can you analyze where those emotions come from and learn more about yourself in the process. And it's another go at the gym, isn't it? It's of learning how to be more in control of yourself and not let your emotions rule you. So I think that the reading was telling us that we're going to go through another spurt of that scenario, and advising those who are particularly affected on the best way in which to manage their behavior for the most positive outcome for everybody. That's the way I read it.
Now, if I was to ask you, by taking Lenny's Fibonacci sequence and the different scales that he's discussed, where we've got the human scale, where the individuals being heard, they matter, they can see the impact of what's going on, and then the global scale, where as consumers we drive where corporation lead their product development towards. The same reading, do you think, would lay across the board of different groups similar to Flame? Because I suspect Flame isn't the only group like this. There's absolutely variations, and I've been seeing very wonderful communities, and how it's trying to learn to sustain itself and have a practical and pragmatic application, as well as it being a place you get to practice giving. So the practical application is you recharge. If you're down, if you're bummed out, you've watched something or somebody does something or something's going in your life, well, when something goes down in my life, I have to deal with it. But I know if I reach out and share what I'm going through with others, not only it lifts that weight off of me, it also gets me hopeful. So it transitions my perspective almost 180 degrees. So basically, I think little clusters, little groups of us. This is what's going through, and I think other groups are trying to figure it out just the way we are. Everybody has their own flavor, whether it's art or applied sciences. There's different techniques of martial arts. There's different techniques of chefing, of cuisine creation, and it's because we've got this diverse option range. It makes us very fortunate, because by interaction, fusion gets created, and that's we got the fusion cuisine. You've got the mixed martial arts. That development, I believe, comes after. I think it's lagging towards the peak of the consciousness that is driving this. And I think what we're seeing now is really the fruit and harvest of what went down in the 60s, where new consciousness was released. Music was amazing. A lot of consciousness got released through music. And we are a generation, a solid generation, a mature generation after that, realizing we're now the Woodstock of our timeline right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and in terms of your original question, I think, yes, it would apply to many communities, because I think we know that we're all affected by, for example, the planetary alignments, the lunar energy, and so that same energy is going to be affecting all groups of people and to varying extents. So yes, I think the reading would apply to many groups. Maybe not necessarily now, but the beauty of tarot is you can always learn from it, whether it's a reading specifically for you at the time or not. You can still learn from it, because the insights, especially this deck, the insights are there for you to take on board and help you always throughout your life. But yes, I think if the flame is going to be going through this cycle at this time and these challenges, then I think, yes, that would apply to many communities around the world at the same time. And you're right, I think that this shift in consciousness isn't a sudden thing. It's been growing. It started a while ago, like you're saying, in the 60s, where the seed started to sprout. And we're now maybe at a juvenile plant stage. It is growing exponentially and spreading throughout humanity. And not only is it spreading in terms of quantity, but also in terms of quality, it's increasing. So the effects, I would suggest, are more pronounced now and getting more pronounced all the time. It's like an exponential growth, both in quantity as well as in quality. What do you think about that? And what do you think, Michelle? Jump in.
I've been busy. Sorry, I'm back.
Okay.
I missed the very first part of the reading that you were doing, but what I did catch, you know, I enjoy your readings. I did. I'm gonna segue. If anybody is interested, she has another channel called Amber's Place, and she puts the horoscopes, and I'm really enjoying she puts the energetic work into it. And it seems to me that when she segues from the card and actually just starts to give her interpretation of the, specific, that there's so much that resonates. And so it's absolutely amazing. And I do recommend, if you're into that and you want to, hear your horoscope, to check out Amber's Place. And she does them with cards, but like I said, but when she's done, she does kind of like a wrap up and kind of just flows with that spiritual energy and within her, and it resonates. It's great. It's absolutely great. As for the flame, there's always growing pains as people come in and integrate. We know that from past history that when people come in and they haven't had their voice be heard, that when they come and they finally are amongst people that don't think they're crazy, they will talk a lot. And that's okay, because that's what it's there for, is for people to let it out, let it all hang out, you know, and become a part of this family. And then of course there's stages that everybody goes through, but you know, and then we get to this place where we can have different opinions, you know, and we can share our different opinions. We can have different experiences, and we can share our different experiences. But when it comes down to it, we're all in this together, and you see that there's more that is in common than anything that would separate us. It's absolutely beautiful. And it does. It has its growth spurts, and then adjustment period, then growth spurts and adjustment period. But the adjustment periods are coming along much better, much faster than where we were a year and a half ago, where a lot of people were digging their heels in and were not budgeable. Now these people, their minds are opened up. No, not just you. Come on. But their minds are opened up and more accepting of somebody else's perspective. And it's a beautiful thing. It's absolutely beautiful. Now I'll let Bob take his turn.
Yeah.
Nicely put, Michelle. Thank you. I don't see it as much of a challenge as it is the new baseline. It's almost as if gravity's been increased and everything feels heavier. It's something that's going around everyone. It can be definitely described and identified as a challenge, but it's a different presentation of what is the weight that comes on us. It all becomes about weight, and weight is that compression stage where you can't see hope. Everything is negative. You can't love yourself. You get all these emotional states happening, and then at the same time you get all these thoughts being broadcast all over. And the way thought gets broadcast, it's you name it, it can happen. And when the trigger is there, that thought presents itself, and if the person is in a depressive state, they will buy into that thought, and it'll become more challenging to get out of it. However, if you learn as soon as the thought enters your head and say, hey, I reject this. Yes, I see it. It's possible. I'm not buying into it. Thank you very much. Thank you for teaching me this, and move on. This has been a de facto practice that I've used to keep me not get into dips and highs. It keeps me constant on a place of joy, of content. I'm busy looking for beauty, and in the meantime, I'm surrounded in a group of beautiful people. So I'm looking for beauty within beauty, and externally, we're shown things that seems horrific. And today, a good friend said that horrific and wonderful things coexist simultaneously. And a big part of it is our perspective, and also the amount of work we've done to lead us into a swamp of undesired experiences. Taking shortcuts, conning people, lying, any sort of deception, anything that takes away any form of we realize we sold that part of ourselves for this. This was our price. We find out we have a price. And I'm not talking about being stubborn and belligerent where you can't say, well, I was wrong, thank you for teaching me, but to have consistency of perseverance. And it's so critical to stay in gratitude. That if I had to emphasize anything to anybody, is learn a way to be in gratitude all the time. It's not that difficult once you get a hang of it, but getting there is really challenging, because if we're asking other people, everybody's got a different de facto standard, and there might be other intentions involved. We find our own pace and where we want to be organically, as long as we give up fear, realize that we are a part of universe. The universe created us. So in effect, the universe has an obligation of sustaining us one way or another. And that sustenance is given to us by love and compassion. Because once you get over the conflict, you find out that underneath all conflict is unity. And that unity is achieved in a moment where we're not in control. Alan Watts describes his a visit with Young, and they discussed the behavior of the geese that was plentiful in Young's lake house waters. And what the geese did, they're monogamous, they mate for life, and they don't know what to do. So when they first find each other, they clash, they fight. And in the middle of fighting, they start to go into lovemaking. So it starts off one way, but at the end, it ends up somewhere else. So this existence that we have, it needs that passion, that spur. It all comes down to us as individuals, and if we can realize that all we need to do to change the world is change ourselves, it takes a lot of weight off of us again. And that allows us to stay truthful, to stay positive, hopeful, grateful. And if that's not new earth to me, I don't need anything more. That, for me, this is a new reality, because my perspective has changed. My gratitude is out there. I am relying on other people. I'm relying on other people to be authentic. And it's not based on expectation. It's based on mutual agreement. It's an interdependency, not a codependency. And there's no entanglement. There's no agenda. There's no past this. The real harvest comes. This is the harvest of stuff we're experiencing. Be able to sit and broadcast like this to a group of like-minded people discussing a French topic. 15 years ago, this would have been technologically possible, but the people wouldn't have had the practice with the software to make it happen, and it didn't have that critical mass point. It didn't hit critical mass. Now it has it, and where it's going to go from here, I think, is going to be incredible.
Yeah, I agree. It's, you know, for what you were saying, I agree. It's about not concentrating on the differences between our different perspectives, but the commonalities. And it's take the various religions, for example. I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago, and I was saying almost all the different faiths, they have this idea of heaven and hell, whatever they happen to call it, whatever version they teach. And I think they're all right. There is a heaven and hell, but I don't think it's necessarily after we die. I think it's here. And I think the original teachings would have been something along you choose whether you're going to live in heaven or hell. Because you create that yourself. So with your perspectives and the way you feel, are you going to look at life as being a wonderful experience, or are you going to look at it as being hell on earth? And it's not just about how you look at your individual life, because collectively we do change reality with our emotions and our thoughts, and not only for us but for those we're in contact with or we're connected to. So collectively, as a whole, we're going to we can create the kind of earth that both through our mind, body and spirit, so physically as well as through your mind, and that's your thoughts and emotions, as well as spiritually through your, whether you call it your soul, your higher self, or whatever name you apply to it. All three components together in different layers affect our reality. So we create the reality that we expect, that we want. And I think we were discussing recently that the change could have been that as people started to wake up to the narratives and this, what some people call brainwashing or programs that we're taught from the time we're born, as people start to wake up from that sleep stage and start to look at their existence and reality and what we see on the media and the news, and see through the lies and the obfuscation and the misinformation, then and as people start to analyze religions and start to research themselves and begin to realize that all these religions have got more in common than they have differences between them, then that could have been the start of the awakening, because people are stepping out of those furrows, as our friend Magi would have said, the belief systems in every area of their life, and they're starting to analyze and it's given us the freedom of thought and belief to start seeing what's really here, and therefore affecting what's really here, to mutate it and create the new version of our reality.
I have an experience I can share with you guys about, we often talk about the flower of life and how we're quantumly entangled, and like you're the center of yours, and then of course you've got these loops around you that are the other people that are affected, or by your presence, and they have theirs, and it goes on infinite. Well, this happened in real life. My brother, who would be the last person that you would ever expect for something like this to happen, is having his spiritual awakening. He's having dreams and visions. He's seeing number synchronicities. He's seeing different anomalies in the sky. He's seeing the changes go on around him. And he didn't know what the heck was going on. And I said, watch my YouTube channel. But it just shows that how, when one person, can bring their awareness up, how as we're quantumly entangled, we affect the people that are quantumly directly entangled with us. And so on, and so on, and so on. And this just happened last week when he called me kind of freaking out about these dreams that he's having, these number synchronicities, or he'll think about something and then it'll happen. All of these things were going on with him and he just couldn't explain it. And it just shows how we affect other people. I didn't have to say anything to him. He was the one that called me and started telling me all about these amazing, wonderful things going on. Now, the only part that I played in it was to bring a little calm and a little peace and let him know that this is all normal. Many people are going through this at the same time. And you're going to end up affecting people around you the more aware that you become. And he was very calm then about it. He stopped, the fear kind of melted away. And I was just amazed by it, because daily I am amazed by what people will come up and say to me, close related people that are in my circle, you know, in my flower of life, and what they've got going on within them. And a lot of people are, you know, like I said, it took me 17 years before I spoke up about it. You know, there's a lot more people going through this than we could possibly know about. They just do it in silence because they don't want to be labeled by the world, or, you know, but this is going to become the new common knowledge. I can see that happening. But just by having that happen last week, it brought peace to my heart that, you know, although we don't have to do anything except for do the work within ourselves, and it actually does benefit other people around us. Can't do the work for them. He's got to go through his own stages, he's got different filters than I do and things like that. But it was just an amazing conversation, and I totally enjoyed it. Totally enjoyed hearing his testimony.
That's amazing, and I'm seeing similar myself. Other people that are changing around me, and I agree. Like, it's like Bob said, to change the world, you change yourself, because
Yes.
by changing yourself and changing your own frequency, your own energy, and it's not just a catchphrase, it's actually true, because each emotion has a different, resonates at a different frequency. Then you do, whether you talk to these people or not, the people that you care about, that you're energetically connected to, that frequency affects their frequency. So as yours raises with your emotional state, theirs also raise, and they begin their own awakening process. And it's at that point that you can be assistance to them if they come to you to say, I'm experiencing A.
Yes. And I'd say it's through his choice, because we all have the choice. You know, we still, even if you're quantumly entangled with somebody, you have the choice, you know, still to stay asleep or to go along for the ride. And I'm real proud of him that he decided to go for it and do, you know, and go through the process, because it's wonderful. And you know, he had some real hardships come about in his life just recently, and I told him, I said, I'm gonna have to overstep your will, because you're your own worst enemy right now by the things that you're saying, because I know what the outcome needed to be and the outcome that he desired, but by his own words, he was condemning his own outcome. So I said, I'm not trying to take your sovereignty away. I'm just going to do what is in your best interest. And lo and behold, everything went through without a hitch, and he was so happy. But that had nothing, that didn't even cross his mind. He didn't even think about that, because that was months ago. And then all of these things started happening, which means he made the choice that he's going to do the work. And because we can't do the work for other people, and everybody has that choice. But it's just amazing, and I'm not taking credit for his awakening in any way. What I'm trying to say is, we're quantumly entangled, and we do affect each other, and it's beautiful.
Thank you. And I just want to say welcome to Overcassin, who's just joined us. Hi, Overcassin.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello. You're a bit quiet. Let me see if I can turn you up on control panel. I know you're already at maximum.
Hold on.
So hopefully the viewers can hear you okay. Is there anything you just jump in whenever you want to? If there's anything you want to add, do you want to tell the viewers a little bit about yourself, whatever you want to reveal, let people introduce yourself and etc.?
Sure. Okay, so go by the username Overcatten. This account's Overacting. I originally was Overacting, like yeah. I last year around February.
Right, Jim Carrey. How you the one for being
exaggerating,
known to be overacting.
Yeah. Exaggeration in acting, yes. But all right. So last February is when I actually joined the community. I was searching for answers, and I found the community. This whole Mandela effect ride started then, and I met a lot of different people. Let's start with the first one that shook me, which was a real big one. Was the JFK deal. The whole car and the seats in the car, four people. I remember 4 people in the seats in the car, and then now it's 6, and it's just like it didn't make any sense. I've watched like plenty of documentaries. I wrote a few papers on it. It was different. It shook me, and it took a while for me to get my footing. I met a lot of great people in the community that helped out. Yeah, and now we're here, and for everything that everybody said right now, I agree to everything y'all were saying, and I disagree. Yes, I agree because yes, everybody that said everything made sense. It makes perfect sense, but I disagree because it's different for me. Everybody's different. It is an individually based happening that's happening to us, and whatever's true for that person, whatever they hold true in their life, that's how they're going to experience it. We do have commonalities and similarities, but it's totally different. The words that we use are similar, even though we use different words. So talking about the power of prayer or manifestation, it's saying the same thing. Just different words. These changes, there's big ones because we all, we know a movie, we know a song, we know how things happen, how they were. Just keep in mind that everything's in constant flux. It's not negative, it's not positive. If you see it negative or you see it positive, that's what it's going to be. So my message is just walk a balanced path. Enjoy the ride. Don't get into the fear mongering or time speeding up. It may be speeding up, or it may not be speeding up. It's actually the way you perceive it. That's what it's going to do. Just enjoy the ride. Stay balanced.
What if you had a single piece of pragmatic advice for those who are just starting along this path? Say somebody who's just waking up to the Mandela effect, or has just had what they might call a Holy Spirit baptism or a spiritual cleansing experience. I'd like to ask each of you in turn, but I'll start off with over Katin and then Bob and Michelle. So what would be your one piece of advice you would give to people who are just starting in this process?
I would say, one, calm down. You're not alone. That's pretty much it. Calm down. You're not alone. There's a lot of people, they see these changes, and if they get hit with too many different changes all at once, then they go down these different rabbit holes and look into different ones, and then it turns into fear. They start fearing things, and that's you shouldn't fear this. Whatever's going on, you shouldn't fear it because there's nothing negative about it. Just calm down. You're not alone. You will find us. All you have to do is look. Even we've all found each other. We've all came looking down our different paths, and we all ran into each other.
Great, thank you. What about you, Bob?
My advice would be don't give advice unless asked for advice.
That's a good one.
Okay.
To break it down, I mean that if you figure something out and you get really excited about it and you see it, you're awake to it, you see it, and you run to somebody else and you want to explain to them and don't want to hear about it, to be okay with that. They will wake up when their time comes.
Okay, yeah, I like that. What about you, Michelle?
I'd say be kind to yourself and be patient with yourself. We've all go through this in different ways, different orders, different different things that have been put into us as the mistaken identity is removed and the truth comes in. Sometimes we can cleave to things and it can be very painful. And just to, be patient, be kind, show kindness and respect for one another, listen to other people, and speak your truth, give your testimony, because, by giving your testimony could be bringing peace and comfort to God knows how many other people that are going through this in silence and that are seeking out, because I can only talk from my own experience. And as these things were transpiring within me, I started seeking out what the heck was going on, and is this going on with other people? So, that's, what my advice would be is be kind, be patient with yourself. You're not alone. There's divine appointments that are kept there. We meet up with them. Everything is good. The universe talks to us each in our own unique way. No two are alike, but you will find similarities that will bring you comfort. And that would be my advice to somebody that's just waking up. That would be my advice.
Okay, thanks. And similar to you guys, my advice would be, don't turn to necessarily your family and friends when this process starts to happen. For example, if you suddenly realize that a Mandela effect is real and you don't know anybody else who does, don't turn to them for advice and support or to try and wake them up to it as well. Try to find communities online, and there are so many of them. Go onto YouTube, watch the Mandela affected videos, and many of them will have links to various Facebook groups or free chat forums like Discord, where you can join other communities of people who've been going through this process for much longer, who can provide you with the emotional and psychological supports and understanding that you need. Concentrate on yourself first. Get yourself in the right place first, because as you change, those around you in your physical life will notice that and will start to ask questions themselves. What are you doing? What's different? And so this is how you can pragmatically, on a physical level, lead by example and initiate them also changing. But at the same time, as you change, as I mentioned before, you will be having an effect on them, both by your mind to mind as well as your spirit to spirit. So that would be my advice. And it's where I went wrong when I first woke up. I, like many, went down all the rabbit holes. Oh my God, the Earth's going to end. We're going to go into a nuclear war. Russia's going to bomb us, and all of these narratives, and watching, shows like the Alex Jones channel and things like that. But that is a process, I think, that everyone goes through. And then they have to go down into those rabbit holes and then out of those rabbit holes. But if, like me, when you're in those rabbit holes, you start shouting from the rooftops to your families and friends, they're going to think you're going nuts. So you need to go through that process first and work on yourself, and then they'll come to you and start asking questions. So find communities online of like-minded people who can help you and support you and help your perceptions as you're going through this. That would be my advice. So what have you guys got any recent personal effects like Mandela or related to Ascension? I mean, it's the same thing, but that you've noticed recently that you want to share?
I just noticed I've been sleeping a lot, just resting a lot. So other things for other people. And I noticed that the sun, I just got done griping to you guys on Discord about that shed blocking out the sun, right? Not anymore. It's fixed. I don't know. Lots going on. It's just like, okay.
I remember you mentioning that, because then the sun changed, didn't it? Where it rose and set.
Yes, now it's rising more like to the southeast, and it was going to cross and setting in the northwest. Now it's kind of changed again, but still, my pool has sunshine on it. When the sun's out, it's still got sunshine on it, so I'm not complaining. I'm completely happy and content. And my skies are beautiful, still staying beautiful. You know how we've often talked about what happens in the micro happens in the macro. So, where these energy fields that extend out around us, and as we progress along, it's like it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you can see like the changes around you, like you can see the beauty in the flowers and the greener in the foliage. The colors become more vivid, the sky's more beautiful. It's just absolutely amazing. There's something going on constantly. What happened just in the past now is now what's going on now is different. We're always in flux, be like water, and just whatever you're poured into, water will change its shape to whatever the vessel is, and it's a beautiful thing. Looks like over Catherine wants to talk, so I'm gonna mute.
Yeah, go for it.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. And I would like to pass on the message. If you do not see the vivid colors, if you don't see the beauty and the positivity, ask to see it. Just simply ask to see it. Like, I would love to experience what that person's experiencing, and I guarantee you, whatever you're experiencing is going to shift over. That's I've been doing this since the beginning. When someone would tell me about some sort of change that they saw, I'd ask to see it, and I would see it. Same thing for abilities. If they had some sort of abilities, it's like, man, that would be cool to try that ability, or to experience that ability. And then I experienced that ability. I had no control over the abilities, but I've experienced them. So yeah, ask and you shall receive.
That's exactly what I was thinking when you were saying that. Knock and the door will be open, seek and you shall find, and ask and you shall receive.
Yeah, agree.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. I mean, I don't know, I've noticed that the sun rising and setting, and not so much setting, but rising in different cardinal points. I had a few instances recently. I've seen the sun rise in the north or the northeast, and the western sky in the morning having a red glow, whereas the eastern sky is still dark, and the compass points being reversed, etc., temporarily. Yeah, it's incredible. What about you, Bob?
No, nothing really. Things have kind of stabilized, and it's been so for a while. There's still interesting blips here and there. I've seen sound barrier walls that leads to Costco, which was a very common trip, that were made out of concrete. They were shorter and made out of wood in a different color. I saw them recently, and they looked weathered. They weren't something that had recently been changed. I had more experiences with hiking through trails in nature. I do a lot of hiking, and it's there. It's not a big deal anymore. You acknowledge it, and for me, it's more surrendering to it. And we were talking earlier about that gentleman who started to get something from his peripheral, and instead of getting excited, he surrendered into it, and it melted him into a more concrete reality, which I think is it's all about resolution, like the resolution you get on your monitor screen. We get a big fractal portion, which is a macro, and if we can actually get into that fractal, we will see the detail that's within it. But you have to be able to not conceptually understand that fractal. You have to experience it, and once it's experienced, you can become a part of it. The other end of the spectrum is that we are looking for things that are too small to see, and we're somewhere in the middle, and both shifts into the macro and the micro has a dynamic effect, and its relationship could be no different than the past and the future, because if the macro and the micro is coexisting with the human scale, then you've got the micro and the macro coexisting with the time of future and past, being another pivotal point, with the now being the human scale.
Yeah. Okay.
So I know I didn't answer your question. It's being able to, it's the Overcatten, he described it really well. It's the ability to experience it but not have any control over it. It's like riding in a car but not driving.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I would argue that the process is about, at first, I would agree with you that it's about experiencing, and it certainly is about enjoying the experience. Otherwise, we wouldn't have chosen to be here. But I think there is an element of learning how to control it. Part of me thinks that the reason we're going through this now is because originally our progenitors had these abilities in full strength, and that was removed from them because they were irresponsible with them, and that we're now developing them again. But the reason we are being taught, and we need to deal with our emotions and get more in control of our emotions and our thoughts, use more mindfulness, etc., 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 is so that we don't, as a species, become irresponsible with these abilities. I mean, you hear the narrative from some camps that this event or Ascension episode that is predicted to come has been delayed because not enough of humanity is ready yet. And that I wonder if part of that is because we need to become better, more empathetic, compassionate people before we suddenly get the en masse these updates, the full whack. Because you can imagine if everybody got this update straight away all at once now, I mean, the more negative orientated humans on the planet, I mean, I dread to think what they would do with those kind of abilities. What do you think? Anyone? Okay.
Well, we can kind of feel that now. That's one of these things that are, coming into alignment with us, is that, you can feel the intentions behind people even before they speak. And so they won't be able to hide these intentions. Now, everybody grows at a certain rate. Everything's in divine timing. I don't think that there's anything that's been delayed at the cost, because of, a human being is not, doing exactly right. I think as this refinement period is going on within each and every one of us, we're on time. It just takes time. Some of us have been going through it for a while. Maybe we're getting impatient, but I would rather be patient and wait for everybody to come into this understanding of who and what they are than to rush the process and have people, lose their mind or not understand exactly what's going on. Now, as we're going through this refinement, and the gifts are stirred up, there are some people that are using them in the wrong ways. But that's part of the learning process, is to learn to use your gifts properly. And then you've got people that are able to, can sense the intentions behind people. And then you can shed more light on them to help burn away those types of activities that they're no longer serving them. They're not benefiting them at all. A lot of times you'll find that it's people that, play in the dark, so to speak, will suddenly come down very, very ill. They'll be down for weeks, and then they'll come back and be almost like a different person. These are just thoughts and opinions that I'm giving from observations that I've observed through other people and transactions and things like that. The one thing, though, that I have to say to everybody is we've all throughout our whole life had what we call a gut instinct. That sixth sense has always been operating with us, whether on autopilot or now we're becoming more aware of it, and it heightens all of our senses. It heightens our sight, our touch, our sense of smell, taste. All of it becomes heightened, our sense of hearing, everything. And then also the gifts are heightened. But when somebody is using them for improperly, so to speak, they will be, there's a saying, the pride comes before the fall. So if they're using them in a prideful or a malice way against another person, they'll kind of get knocked down a peg, and then they will, be given another chance. So that's where our patience needs to come in, because eventually I feel that everybody will get this. It's just a matter of time. And those who choose not to, maybe they're going to pass on, maybe they'll come back in and try and give it another go. I'm really not sure. But actually in the Bible, it talks of reincarnation. So, who knows? I mean, I was at a point in a meditation with you where I was picking my birth parents. So I don't know how to explain that. How do I explain that I was picking my birth parents? And I seen it. It was amazing. So, there's a lot more going on than we know. And and instead of thinking that this is the end of time, this is not the end of time. We're changing cycles. We're going out of Pisces and we're going into Aquarius. We're actually at the dawning of Aquarius. And it's a new understanding that we're getting. And, it's a paradigm shift. And I actually feel blessed to have lived in both paradigms, because I get to take the experience and the expansion that I got from that Pisces time, and I also get to now use that expansiveness, what I learned, from there, and apply it here in the age of Aquarius. I don't know. It's just amazing. And that's mentioned in scripture too. Jesus says, follow the water bearer. That's the age of Aquarius. So a lot of times people will read the Bible on a surface level and not really get into, the parables and the deeper meanings of things. They misunderstand. And that's okay, because in time, all will be revealed. So we're not at the end, guys. We're at the beginning of the great peeking behind the veil, the great revelation. And I see a completely different outlook than I did in the very beginning, where everything was like, oh my gosh, like Chicken Little, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. It's not. The sky is not falling. We are going through a restoration, and it's absolutely beautiful, and it's something that completely look forward to on a daily basis.
Thank you. Thanks. You were going to say something over Catton. Did you still want to say something?
Yeah. Yet again, I agree and disagree at the same time. I'm looking at it from a different angle. For one, okay, so we all have a path that we're going down as the affected. These changes mean something totally different to each person. They all have a message in it, but we're not looking at the messages. Each change is a change for one particular person that was looking for it or needing an answer. They got their answer. Hold on one second. Okay, sorry. No, they got their answer, and it was for them, but they shared it with somebody else, and then that became true for that person, and then that person kept sharing it, and other people shared it, and then it got on the internet, and then it's a change for everybody, right? And
Mm-hmm.
These changes happen for everybody that see it, but it doesn't mean the same thing to everybody. Some changes don't even make sense because that change wasn't for you. Once you stop looking at other people's changes and looking for your own in your life, not online, not from word of mouth, but the ones that happen right in front of your face, right? They're hidden in plain sight. Sometimes they slap you in the face. They're right there and you just don't see them. But once you see them and get that message, the other ones don't matter. It's the ones that happen in your real life. It might not happen for everybody else, because what it does is a song might rearrange and give you different lyrics that you are meant to hear. A movie does the same thing. The actors are still acting the same way, but the words are different because it's for you. And then if you go back and listen for it, it's back to normal. That's how a personal change happens. People aren't looking for those personal changes. I think I've shared this information for a few months, and before that, somebody else was sharing this message, and I thought, man, you're crazy. That's too far out there. I can't believe that, because we all thought, different theories, how it's happening, why is it happening, and then we progressed. We went down a path, and we canceled things out. And some of us are, we have a certain understanding of what this is, but not really, not completely. And that's fine. But our ideas of these changes have changed. Some have stopped in the path that they were supposed to go down, and they got stuck, and they're there. They're not progressing. They're not going back. They're pretty much like sidestepping, not really going anywhere. Until something triggers it. Somebody comes into the conversation, brings something up, and then boom, you're on your path again. So we tend to get stuck on these big changes. It's like, yes, favorite movie changed a little bit. What does that mean to you? Nothing. Means nothing. The ones that happen in real life, the ones that happen in your homes, shows you that anything and everything is possible. And that's beautiful, because if you enjoy that, you see that, you'll enjoy the ride a lot better, instead of, you know, looking for the next change and the next change and the next change. It's, oh goodness. Yeah, I think we just need to. Okay, so most of us, we claim to be awake and woke and you know, we were not asleep anymore, but we still have the blinders on because we don't see the messages. We don't see the changes in our own personal lives. We're, you know, some of us are still trying to work it out, you know, and some people need more help than others. And I think that's the main message, is like help everybody. You know, I'm not saying be negative, be positive. No, I don't. To me, too much positivity, you're just inviting negativity to show up sooner or later. That's why I said I walk a balanced path. Before, I was giving out the good vibes and the love to everybody and anybody, and somehow it would be manipulated. It would be askew, and then, you know, someone would have bad luck or someone might get sick. So I only sent the positive vibes to people that needed it, or asked for it rather. And then no negativity showed up. Be balanced. I guess that's the message. Be balanced. But it might not be true for everybody. Maybe you need to be negative. Maybe you need to be positive. The thing about this that's happening to us is it's individually based. You know what I mean? It's like, I was afraid of all the negative people, but maybe they're supposed to be negative. Maybe in their world, through their eyes, it's not negative. You know, yeah.
I like what you're saying. I like what you're saying. And when you were talking about, it's an interesting concept that if you consider that all the different Mandela effects were a message to a particular individual, and that by sharing that, it then spread and became change for other people, because that goes back to what I've talked about before on this channel, the morphogenic field hypothesis, which is my term for it. So whereas these changes are spread through the morphogenic fields, the energetic connections we have with each other, because it's all about belief. For example, if you have, okay, say you've got a bottle of Febreze in your cupboard, and you suddenly come across a YouTube video or something telling you Febreze is now spelled Febreze, and you believe that, oh, it's now spelled this. When you go and then look at the bottle of Febreze in your cupboard, theoretically, according to this, because you now believe it is spelled this new way, that is what you will perceive. And on more than that, your perception changes the physical construct of that object itself. So this has been borne out in science, where we know that the observation is not just that our brains are decoding the electromagnetic information of that item and then presenting us with what we see. What we see changes the item and it has an effect upon it physically as well. So if you believe it's now spelled differently and you pick it up, then you will be able to change it to reflect your belief. So, and then you go around telling people and showing them the bottle of Febreze, and suddenly for them, they believe you. Oh yes, it's changed. So then they change more bottles of Febreze. At the same time as each bottle of Febreze is connected to all the other bottles of Febreze morphogenically, because they're the same item, and so it also spreads along that layer as well. And the reason we get flip-flops is because some people refuse to believe it or change their mind or have doubts. And of course, there are people who are blocks to this, just like homeopathy works on a on an energetic scale, and they know that some people can block that working for them, or even in their vicinity, because they are like blocks. Like Bella in Twilight, she was a shield. You know, she could stop other people's psychic abilities from affecting anyone within her shield. She presented an aura that blocked, and so we have these blocks around. But I like what you're saying, because I never considered that the initial change was because somebody's belief had changed, or they needed a message. Perhaps it was changed by their higher self, and it was a message for them, but then it gets spread that way. I like what you're saying about that. Don't know if it's true, but it makes sense.
Yeah, well, I believe we're all easily influenced. I mean, that's how these changes happen. We tell somebody about a change, they go look at it, then it spreads like wildfire like that through the community. Maybe we weren't meant to see it. That's why it doesn't make sense to some of us. Yeah. The whole bubble theory, Einstein's bubble theory, is the same exact thing. It's like what's true in my universe is not true in everybody else's. It's not until that I interact with that person, even by talking or texting, then our universes are pretty much combining. Some things are canceling out. Some things are, overtaking my stuff and rewriting my universe, and some of my things are rewriting their universe. And but we've already interacted. There's no going back, unless maybe we run into another person that had our old universe just like ours, and then we interact with them. But then again, we could also influence their universe with the other person's universe. It's just a big, yeah, same thing. Of course.
It's kind of why I don't really buy into. I'm not discounting it. It's certainly possible, but the theory about there being different timelines. I mean, and different versions of the same reality coexisting in the same space at the same time, but at different frequencies. Now that is perfectly possible, and I even use the phrase my switch timelines, because it's something that we use now, many people. And it's certainly possible that is the case. But I've got to the point where I'm thinking it's not necessary for that to be the case to explain the Mandela effect, or even this concept of changing the Earth into a 5D version. It's not necessary for that to be so. But that doesn't mean it isn't so. But for me, it's not necessary for that to be so now. Because we could just simply be creating the new Earth collectively as we change and grow and become more compassionate and empathetic, and more connected to our souls, if you like, our spiritual energy, as we deal with our karma and our traumas. But what do you think? Do you think that there are different timelines or different versions of the same reality, that we're playing a game of like musical bodies here?
I personally believe that there's only one timeline. It's just we perceive it as individuals. It's just one. All right, if you look at it like this, it's like, okay, the color blue is blue to me, but it's not the same blue to you. Now, we're all taught a certain color in the classroom, right? When we're little kids, the teacher points to a color and said, this is blue. It's like, okay, that's blue. Every time I look at that color, I'm going to call that blue because the teacher said that that's blue. But not everybody sees colors the same way. And I'm not talking about colorblind people. It's like, yes, there is some people that can't see certain colors. I got you. But what if my sky is green? What if mine's yellow? What if mine's purple? But I was taught to call it blue. Everything that we're taught could be completely different from somebody else. We're just taught one color. That's the name of it. Like, okay. Everything is given a name. Everything is taught to us. And we'll skip ahead to now. Most of the things that we were taught, we know are lies. Why? Because we researched a lot of the stuff. We found the real truths. We found people were hiding truths, and well, a lot of things are still hidden, but We've been lied to this whole time. So if we were lied to about certain events, certain happenings, it's like why how can we say, you know, with 100% belief that we all see the world the same? You know, so like in my Bible, when I was growing up Catholic, in my Bible, I had a peaceful Jesus. Now, if you go back, Jesus wasn't peaceful. Jesus called to have you know, enemies brought to him and slain at his feet, which is crazy just to read or hear or see. You know, I was taught a lot of stuff growing up about religion, and you know, throughout my life, I tried to find different religions. I tried them out, read different books, and I didn't agree with a lot of them. I consider myself a Jedi. And so what?
Maybe that was true when you were growing up. That was the Bible version of the Bible when you were growing up. But as people's concepts and beliefs about that time have changed, they've changed the past. They've changed history. They've changed the Bible.
I think the only things that I paid attention to changed. All the other things that I did not pay attention to, they could have changed or they could have stayed the same. It's what this is whatever's happening now, it's what you're paying attention to. That's when you notice the changes. You know, it's like,
yeah,
everything happens and you're not looking at it. So it could change 2, 3, 4 times. You're not constantly looking at it. That's the beauty of this world right now. It's like anything and everything can change in an instant. Even the books that we thought were a certain way are changed. The only things that haven't changed are our memories.
And that's borne out by the experiments they did with the random number machines, that they showed that two separate versions of the same thing could exist in physical reality at the same time, as long as nobody observed the prior version. As soon as they thought about and took on the belief of the new version and observed the old version, it would change the old version. And people have seen that. They've had photographs, for example, we've seen it before, where they've had photographs showing the previous version of a Mandela affected item, but then as soon as they observe the photograph, it changes into the new version because they've taken on the belief of the new version. So as soon as they observe the old version, it changes into the new version. Yeah.
It's amazing how it happens and how quick it is. As soon as you stop looking at it, it changes.
Yeah. Yeah. But all the old versions, the kind of code for the old versions are still there in theoretically, they think, in like the 0 point field. It's just the information. If this is a mathematically based reality, which it certainly appears to be, then the code, if you like, the script for that old version of that website is still there in the 0 point field and accessible. So people can access that code and rewrite that website, that version of that book, if they switch back to that old belief at any time.
Yeah. I feel like some of these changes are mistakes as well. Not all changes are the changes we're speaking of. Now, if you take a can of Coke, for an example, if I'm left-handed and I'm drinking out of a Coke can, I'm going to see the word Coke on the side of the can. But if I'm right-handed and I drink that can, I'm going to see Coca-Cola on it. So for most of the people, it's Coca-Cola, and the other people, it's always been Coke. The thing about it is Coke and Coca-Cola was on the same can, just different sides. So it could be just a little mistake. But there's too many, way too many. There's thousands upon thousands of changes to be, for that one to be fake. But that's just a little example. It's like we could be mistaken. The movies have me. A lot of the movies They got me. They got me. I know a couple of the lines have changed. But then again, I started thinking about this. And it was just like, well, in order to actually find out if a movie line has changed, is I got to buy every version of that movie. I got to go look for the VHS, the DVD, the Blu-ray, the laser disc if it's an older movie. I got to find the director's cut, the international cut. I got to find the TV version as well, because the TV version has some of the deleted scenes or unseen scenes in them. And then I got to watch them all and make sure they all have changed or just one that, you know, I saw.
Yeah.
The thing about it is, like, a lot of us don't, we do research on these changes up to a certain point, but we stop and we don't look into it any further. Like say a logo changed, right? It's like, okay, a logo's changed, but does anybody know if that's the same artist that put out the old logo that we knew? Nobody does that. Nobody checks into the artist. Maybe he did. Okay, so maybe something was changed where when all right, so when you make a logo for a company, you give them 5, 6, 10 logos, and then they pick one. They're all different logos. So then what if one of the changed logos is still in his portfolio? It just wasn't the chosen logo. We're not looking into that. We're just saying, yeah, it's changed. Okay, it changed from my memory. And then we move on to the next change.
Yeah. I'll just say one more thing before I ask what Bob and Michelle think of all this, because one of the things that's crossed my mind is certain elements of the scientific and military and government community. They're going to be aware of all this as much as anyone else is. And it's crossed my mind that there could be a risk in following all these Mandela effects, because say, for example, an element, a group decided that they wanted to change a past event. Then theoretically, under this, all they have to do is, use their YouTube channels or leak it out that, oh, it's changed, that this is the new version of history, because they theoretically then would know that if enough people bought into that and believed that was the new version of history, it would actually become the new version of history for everybody. So I wouldn't put it past those kind of elements at all to be, whether doing it in a benign way just to see what would happen, is this going to work if we do this, and then using it for their own gain to change reality in their favor once they know that this does actually work. What do you, Michelle, Bob, what do you think of this?
I really don't have any comment.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I see overacting is on a very interesting thread, and it's a valid thread. When you take it from point of perspective that I'm sitting here and saying that this is one of the timelines and my consciousness is fractured all over in other times, like, well, then that's my higher self. I don't have access to all that consciousness, and that is only one timeline. So when you're talking multiple timelines, you're talking potentiality, and the essence of this reality, if it's holographic, then it can represent anything that you want when you're ready, when you need to hear it. And again, he's correct. Even if we see the same color red, because of the rods and cones in our eyes, the shade's going to be different. We agree because the constant allows us to express something that is never constant to another inconstant. So it's actually a miracle that we're able to communicate. And the first purpose of language is letting people know what you want from them, getting something out of people, whether if it's information or if it's their attention. And I'm not saying it's nefarious, but language is intended to meet something that is being put out there, whether it's in the form of information or a question. So he's right on all these aspects, and you're right that this is a mathematical universe, but for you to try and explain what my first kiss was like in any form of math, it's never going to come completely. So I think math can be wrapped around after the event ends up taking place. And anybody who believes in notion of multiple timelines, then there should be a timeline that there aren't any other timelines, because everything is possible. So that needs to be reined in. And earlier on, you mentioned that you think some level of control is necessary. Absolutely. I think a very high degree of control is necessary, but on ourselves, not on other people.
Yeah.
Not, you know. So I see that this is where Orville Catton's perspective is. It's something that I've gone through, I've experienced, I still do to a great deal extent of it. But when we're talking about the Mandela effect being a message, I suspect the people in this room right now, we've been getting messages from childhood. The Mandela effect brought us together. So it's like the phone rang, except we've talked about this before. We get excited, run out and say, hey, the phone is ringing. We don't pick up the phone and see what's being said. Even when we do, we don't really understand the language that's being expressed from the other side. But it impacts us. It impacts us now, but its effect doesn't become obvious until further down the line, when it's meant to, when it's supposed to do that. So deeper messages, definitely. I think we need to query them. I don't necessarily think they have to come from the Mandela effect, because even if we find out the guy chose a different logo in his portfolio, the logo change itself, I don't know what kind of change it would have had on certain people who might have lost jobs, gone jobs. None of that becomes really relevant, because you'll go mad trying to figure all the different pathways that you could have taken that got us to here now. And when you recognize we are exactly where we need to be with who we need to be, then none of that really ends up being of concern. So to be able to see and recognize everybody's perspective and acknowledge it, and not to wait for someone to stop talking so you can rebuttal what they've said to you, but to just enjoy the conversation.
Yeah.
Which I am.
Me too. Okay, well, thanks everyone. I'm gonna bring it to a close now, because it's what, over
Hey,
time.
Pat's here. Hey, Pat.
I know. Pat just showed up. What's up, Pat? On the
Happy birthday to you.
Is it a birthday?
Happy birthday to
Okay, hold on,
you.
Bob. Let's start over.
Happy birthday, dear Pat. On the back, 444. Happy birthday to you.
Well, can we sing it together? God.
Hey.
Come on, Diva Mel. Start us off. Bob has an awesome singing voice.
Yeah, I want to warn everybody about Mel. She is taking the role of a divine feminine dictator.
I liked mine better. It was a little softer.
You want to sing happy birthday to Pat, do you?
Of course we do.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
You start us off, girlfriend. We'll go for it.
Okay. Happy birthday
To you.
You.
Happy birthday
To you.
to Pat.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
birthday, dear Pat on the back. 444. Happy birthday to you. We love you so much. Thank you for bringing your gracious presence to us forevermore. We love you and adore. Wait, did I just go off lyrics?
Just a little bit. At least
It's time. Well, she brings out the best of me.
okay, well, I put it.
She's laughing and crying.
I'm going to bring it to a close now because we've been on for quite a while anyway. I know I'm getting tired. And so I just want to say to everyone watching, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening to all of our different perspectives. Again, it's about not concentrating on where we differ, but where we agree. And there is an invite to, I'll put it into the chat, to Flame Discord server, which is where we all hang out most of the time. It's, for those that don't know, and I'm just getting another invite, it's a free online chat server. So you do need to access it via a website, or you can download an app. Again, it's free. And there's lots of different communities on there of Mandela affected and various others. Everybody is welcome to join the Flame. And because if it's not for you, you won't stay around. If it is, you will. But if you enjoy it, and I hope you do, then anyway, I'm just rambling now because I'm trying to get the link, and it's come up with another link. Hold on, let me actually get the link again. Okay, so please, if you wish to, please join the Flame. Come and speak to us. Come and chat with us there. There you go. That's the right link. And thank you for watching. And please like the video, because that is the Google algorithm. I mean, the YouTube algorithms. It's quite important if you actually like the video. And I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed and shared. Please check out my other channel, Amber's Place. I'll be doing quite a lot more on there soon. And please check out Michelle's Opinions on YouTube, her channel. Bob doesn't have one. And do you have one, Overcatting?
I do, but it's just for testing purposes, testing out these changes and stuff.
Okay, well, if you send me the link, then if you want to do that, then I can put it in the description of this video. But Michelle, the link to Michelle's Opinions channel is on my homepage in the channels section. So that one will be there. And yes, thank you for coming. I'm sorry I've not been on for a while. We will try to do more videos as time goes on. And thank you everyone. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Overcatting, for coming and sharing your wisdom with myself and each other and the viewers. And I will chat to you all. And thank you everyone who's watching now. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you in Discord in a few minutes, hopefully. Okay. So I'm stopping the broadcast. Unless anyone wants to say goodbye personally. Do you want to say goodbye, Shell, or Overcatting, to the viewers?
See everybody around.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. And Bob has left the building.
Yes, that's fine.
Love you, Mel.
Okay, love you too. All right, see you in Discord.